What was the story that you had to remember about Neil?
Well,
Oh.
we lived in this three-room apartment. Next to us was another three-room apartment, and she had a little girl, maybe
Who, the neighbors?
the neighbor,
Yeah, Arlene.
maybe a month younger or 2 months
Yeah.
younger than Neil. You know, we
Her
would
name
live
was
together.
Arlene Goody or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
good
Yeah.
fellow or good
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Look how she reading
I
that.
went to high school with her.
With them.
They were a year ahead of me.
Yeah. Anyway, and I remember we used to go shopping together. We used to go shopping, and at that time, you go into a store with all the sales prices hanging down, and I'd go quietly, and me and Neil, and her, and our little girl. What the hell was her name?
Arlene.
Arlene. And she would, and she was always very happy and a lot of noise and everything, and he walked quietly next to me, but he ripped off every sales
Oh, no.
quietly. Never said a word. Never said I ripped off everything. We had to run from the store.
Oh, no.
See, he was always very quiet. He was not a noisy, you know.
What's the worst trouble he ever got in?
Oh, wait a second. What about
Yeah,
the
but-
screens?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Very quiet.
No,
Oh, but
what the screens?
I never got.
We
in
lived in
trouble.
this apartment house, and we had a
You're
janitor
making the
who lived
assumption
there
that I was-
who acted like a
I don't think I'm that
manager. You
smart.
know
I
what I
just didn't
mean?
get in
Right.
And she kept the apartment. It was a garden apartment, and she tried to keep it.
We're telling stories about you.
Yeah, that's why it came out.
And she tried to keep
were
it
videotaping.
very just exactly. You know, I don't blame her.
Yeah.
But we all had children. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when she tried to keep it, well, that day you had wallpaper in all the halls and everything. So this here quietly goes into the next hallway.
Let's make sure we know who
and
we're talking
starts
about.
A little
That's who we're
wallpaper.
talking about.
A little wallpaper, and he rips the whole wallpaper down, the whole thing, and then he knocks at her apartment and gives her the wallpaper.
Oh, no.
And she came running in. Her name was Ferguson. I hated them. And she, look what he did. But that's what he did quietly. He ripped the whole
And what about
wallpaper
the
down.
screens with the
Yeah,
stickers?
and then you see, I had this already. I had Kenny.
You
So
right?
Kenny was inside and he was outside. After all, he was 4 years old. He could play it. In those days, you were very trusting, you know.
Right.
So he's playing outdoors. And behind our place was, like playing outdoors. And he found a stick. So he takes the stick and goes to every screen and makes holes in the stick all the way down the whole line. Quietly, and never heard a word. And he comes in the house and he sits there. Never knew a word. And they start screaming. No, they knew it was him. That's why I say he never made noise. He was always, and he did everything. He ate like Max eats quietly, eats the meal, and he sits. And he did things nicely. I don't have any trouble with him. He went to sleep when he's supposed to. He really was, I would say, a good kid.
What
but
about
quietly.
Kenny?
I think I got that gene.
But quiet, he was, and he was. Let me see what else he made up.
What about when his room was real dirty?
Oh well,
What did you
that's
do
the
when his
time
room was
that-
dirty?
I told you what he
No,
did.
you have to say it again.
He had a room with a chair, and the chair was green leather.
Green leather.
Green leather chair.
Nice.
And every day, and this was already, he was in high school. Every day we'd come home and get a new outfit and throw it on the chair. So once I would say, Neil, clean up, Neil, yeah. I would, yell at him because every time I had to pass his room and Kenny's room to get to my room.
And what did Grandpa Phil do? Was that not his department?
Yeah, he yelled, but no, I was the one who was screaming. He yelled. I don't think Dad yelled at you too much, did he? You don't remember Dad yelling to him. Dad's the one who taught him how to do everything.
Yeah.
He's the one who taught him how to swim, taught him how to play ball. He introduced
Ride a
him
bike.
to golf, to bike. He was athletic, and the boys had to be that way. I didn't care, So he even got us a dog. Remember, he got dog Peppy. We had dogs. He got the dogs for the
Who
kids.
named him?
Huh?
Who named the dog Peppy?
I don't even know who named it. You did, or I don't remember that. We had a dog, Peppy, and we kept him until Neil was married. And Kenny says to me, I don't want to take him out anymore, And so even he college already. Kenny did. We had the dog, and Kenny was in Rutgers. So the dog would come and put his nose under the blanket and to his hands or his foot because he had to go in the bathroom. So he would do that, and then Phil had to get out of bed and take him. We lived across the street from a park, and he had to take him. And then he got to the point he didn't want to do it, so he called in one of his accounts. Someone had killed a dog, and they had little children. So he said to them, "I have a dog for you." So he came over, and we played on the floor with the dog. And slowly I took out the dog's dish, and I gave it to him, took out his leash, and I gave him, and they took the dog was a nice little dog, and he went with them. And that was how I got rid of a dog.
Tell the story. I love the story of Kenny and the tickets in the park.
Oh, yeah, those are terrific.
I don't
You
think
didn't-
I heard
you
that
didn't
one.
this
say
is
anything. I
funny.
threw my clothes at them.
Yeah,
That's
oh,
what
yeah.
I wanted to
Finish.
hear.
Oh, well,
Finish
one
that
day
story.
I
Was it
had, I
green?
think, I had a girls coming to clean. Now, you can't clean it, there's everything. And I went upstairs. His whole room was laying with clothes. Never hung up a thing. Whatever he wore that week was laying one on top of the other. I got so mad. I said, "God damn it." And I we had a window. Opened the window, took everything and threw it out the window. You know what he did when he came home?
What?
He laughed. That's all he did. He laughed. He went downstairs,
Collected his
outside,
clothes.
and picked up all his clothes. If I remember correctly, I think he hung up after that.
That must have
Right.
changed things. 'cause he's
That,
been
yeah,
mean
I
ever
think
since.
after
Are
that.
you sure he laughed?
Yes, absolutely. But he wasn't. He never yelled.
Yeah.
And when I was mad at something, he'd go in and close the door. The worst thing of all was when he met Ruth,
Oh.
and we had.
Wait a second. You need
We
to
had-
phrase that.
Wait, I didn't tell you, Neil. What about the time they never walked? I told you the staircase with this wall. They never walked the steps. From the steps, they would jump, hit the wall, and go down.
Neil and Kenny?
Neil, okay, right? Am I wrong or right?
Right.
No,
Yes, to do
okay,
that too.
never
Going
walked.
downstairs.
And also, they cleaned out the
Jump down
furniture
steps,
when I
what you
left because I used to wrestle, right? Cleaned out the whole living room
They would jump
furniture
to the
because I
landing
used to
and then go
wrestle
down the...
when I
okay.
left.
Yeah, we used to break lamps and stuff.
Yeah, well, that's it. Now, where was I?
Something went wrong with Ruth.
Oh, yes, something went, well, I knew Ruth before he did. She was the one in the library. And every time she saw me, she'd say,
my
"No,
question,
Mrs.
John."
Hilsen." She really snuck up to me. She go, "Hello, Mrs. Hilsen," because she knew him. And she knew I was his mother, and I was always in the library.
You remember what you told me about the library yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, the day you always remembered in the library?
Never forget the day the librarian said to me, "You could now take books from downstairs."
Oh,
'Cause upstairs was the children.
The
And
children
She was
thing.
always
And
in
the
the
day
library
she said
because she
to me,
read all
"You
the
could
time.
now take
Oh,
books from
and-
downstairs."
Oh, that
To
was-
me,
You could
that
take
was
the
one of the
grown-up
most
books.
something.
That was
you know,
your acceptance into
I was
adulthood.
I lived on
It was a big
books. I
thing.
remember only books in the library. I was there almost every day, taking another book or something. Anyway, now what did I tell you about?
So Ruth knew Neil.
All right, so Ruth, he met her in high school. They met in high school. He was in the same class as she was.
Yeah, it
But
was
I knew her because she was working in the library. And I used to go in the library, and every time I told her, she said to me, "Hello, Mrs. Hilton." I say to him, "There's a nice girl in the library." Of course, he ignored me completely because he didn't want to know for anything like that. He was going, I used to say, "You're going to marry a ball," because he didn't have girlfriends. He only go ball. We lived across from the park, and that's all they did.
They played ball.
Play ball. Any kind of ball you wanted, play ball.
Yeah,
Well, I got to tell you, when Kenny got to be about 7 years old, I think about that time, that softball games in that park there, professional softball games. Well, Kenny got himself a business. He went out and he bought Kool-Aid. He made gallons of Kool-Aid with my help, and he bought paper cups, and he had to drag him. He used to pay him money to help him drag in the cans of Kool-Aid.
He had to pay everybody money.
Yeah, he paid Neil money.
It was a business. It wasn't profitable,
And
but
he
it was a
did,
business.
and he used to make money that way. Or Kenny was a shrewdy.
Yeah.
Kenny. So he did that at that time. All right, now he meets her. And finally, he gets to meet her through, who was the guy who lived in your building?
Barry Axelrod.
Barry, yeah, somehow or other they were going together. So now, at that time, you had one telephone in the kitchen and one telephone on a landing with the steps where your little hallway, where the
Little
steps
bed
start.
Yeah.
Come out of the bedroom, there's a little hallway. And on this hallway was a little table. And I used to keep a telephone on there so anybody could reach it. Well, what he used to do is take the telephone, sneak it under his doorway, sneak it under his doorway, and talk to her for hours, all evening long. He used to talk to her on the telephone. And nobody could call or anything like that until I knew about it. Am I wrong? Am I
You
wrong?
didn't have call waiting back then.
No. No.
Am
I
I
used to
wrong?
go in my closet. I used to take the phone in my closet.
All right, so I remember you do that, and I used to get off that phone, Okay. Now, that's one thing. Now, where else was I going to tell you something
Oh,
about?
tell about Kenny and the tickets.
Oh, yeah. Now,
So
this
funny.
is, Kenny's got to be, he's already in high school. Kenny is maybe 10 years old. He's still in,
Elementary.
no, I think it's younger, because that school only went up to what, 8th grade?
Grade.
8th grade.
Yes, he was 13.
So he was, so what was he about? And I told you I was into things. We had a fair in the school, and I ran it. And we had rides, and we had things, and we sold tickets, and we had food, and we had this, we had to make money. It was a fundraising for the school. The PTA ran it. So Kenny's with me the whole time, running, and I was very tired. At the end, you have to put everything away and everything. And Kenny finds this roll of tickets, where you snap off
raffle
the ticket.
tickets or whatever.
whatever. And he says, "Can I have it, Mom?" I said, "You can have it. There's no more use. They're not using
The
that
fair's
anymore.
over."
Forget about it." He said, "All right, I'll keep it." That son of a gun kept that for 4 years. And 4 years later, we had the fair again. I wasn't running it this
It was
time.
the same color.
I wasn't running it at this time. And he comes out and he says, "Mom, look what I have." I said, "How do you know it's the same?" He said, "I checked. They are the same." Well, they didn't make money that year. So in the beginning, I remember sitting we had a patio outside, a front patio. You remember?
Porch.
A porch. And I used to sit at the porch, and everybody would, talk. I was sitting there, and he'd come out and he'd say, "Ma, would you like a hot dog?" At first I would say no. And I said, "Well, all right, if you get me one." Well, the guy's hot dogs, the other soda. Every kid in the block went into there. He went through the whole thing, and they couldn't understand why they didn't make money that year.
I love
Kid,
that.
You got
4 years.
the new car outside.
Rude.
4 years. He kept that thing, didn't say a word.
I love that story.
Yeah, well, but it's
That's
it's American.
that's a classic story.
Yeah, classic story. I'm trying to think of all the different things. They don't always come to. Oh, now one thing. I don't know if you remember. They were very big. He was already driving a car. So, did you drive a car in high school, Neil?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
did?
End of high
He was
school.
driving a car, and Kenny was 4 years younger than
Did
him.
he have his own car, or did he drive?
No.
He never had
Grandpa
his own car. You had to work for a car. No, he.
Well, I don't know. After the ticket story,
Yeah, no.
That
Well,
was
Kenny was
Kenny.
4 years younger, so if he was at 17, let's say, Kenny was
13.
13. All right. Now, Dad and I went to Spain. He was that age. I had a next door neighbor, very close friends, the Irene and Marty.
Yeah.
Very close friends. They had children also. And she said, "Don't worry, he's old enough. He can tell you don't have to, you can leave him." He was, I'd say, 18 years old. I left the refrigerator full of food and things, and he's fine. I said, he was good enough. He was sensible enough, I didn't have to worry. Well, he was.
18?
Anyway, 18 or 17. I don't think you were in college, maybe. No, I don't think. I think it was. And anyway, my next door neighbor invited them for dinner, which was very nice one night. Well, of course, they forgot. And they ate a whole meal home. And then Irene calls up and said, "You coming for dinner?" "Yeah, we're coming for dinner." And they went, they ate a whole meal again. Am I right? Yeah, I remember that. They told me about that when I came back.
When you came back?
Yeah.
What was your favorite vacation with Grandpa Phil?
Lately, or in the beginning or lately, don't forget, I went to a lot of countries with him.
You did?
Oh, my
You
God.
traveled internationally a lot?
Oh, yeah.
I was in London twice. I was in Switzerland. I was in France. I was in Russia. I was in Hawaii. I was in Aruba. I was in Mexico. I was in Israel. I was in Spain. I was in Portugal. Canada.
And all around the United
That's a
States.
lot.
That's
Yeah.
a lot.
And all the parks and everything in the United
Oh, yeah,
States.
out west. One of the best trips we ever had. Mostly I went to my girlfriend Ann and her husband, the four of us. One of the best trips we ever had was out west. We flew to Salt Lake City. We rented a car there. We went up to the Canadian mountain.
Rockies.
Yeah, and where Old Faithful was.
Yellowstone.
United States.
Yeah.
Yellowstone.
Yeah, Yellowstone Park. And then we went across all the other parks, came down Olympia, where the I know down and came around there. It took us 3 weeks, but we saw that. To me was my favorite one because I loved Europe and everything, but I love the United States more.
Yeah.
I love the United States
And
more.
your boys were grown when you took that
When
trip?
I took that, they was already. I think you were married.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I think they were
Yeah,
married already
yeah.
when I took that
Tell
trip.
about your shoes when you were a little girl, how you had a...
Oh well, that's
I
sad.
love that.
That's sad. When I was a little girl, of course, one of the times we lived in this, I told you, on the 5th floor in an apartment. We had my mother, my sister, and I all slept in one bedroom, and we had 2 bedrooms that we had 2 boarders in, and they paid rent, and that helped my mother
Make the
pay
rent
the,
for
pay
all of
the
you.
rent. Now, my mother had a job, and my sister,
She was older.
she was young, much older. She was working on, I remember my sister, I remember my mother. Now, she had to go to work, but I didn't go to school for an hour after she went to work, all right? So what she'd do, she would take my feet out of the blanket and put on shoes because they were laces, and I couldn't lace my shoes. So I'd sleep with shoes on for another
She had
hour.
to pre-tie them to go to work. What did she do then for
I
work?
told you, what she did work, she worked in the furriers. At that time, they used to have a small store, furry, they sold fur coats and things. She used to put the linings in. The linings and fur coats. I don't know what, that's what I remember her telling me. And she worked for some people. I remember there were 2 brothers, because I remember going to the store sometimes, you know, to be with her or something. But I remember those shoes, even I remember
I
them.
like that
That's
story.
really something. That's classic. And I slept for another hour. So my sister was to in with me and woke me up. My sister, and I slept for another hour with the shoes on. So I didn't have a good upbringing at all.
No,
But-
you are lonely.
Very lonely
Yeah.
and very changed. I kept changing
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Good. I think we went to the east side once, went away, came back, went away, came back, about 3 times, each time in a different apartment. The lower east side was a Jewish ghetto, and that's where my mother tended to feel at home. Or she got the cheapest or whatever it is, because she'd always come back to that, you know. I had a grandmother, my father's mother.
No, I never heard about that.
Okay, now, in one of the times that we lived in the east side, I was small. I think it's one of my earliest. I was walking. Good. Must have been about maybe 5 or 6. I can't remember school, but this one. Now, my father had a brother. His name was, we were Sherman and they were Simon. I told you, when
Yeah.
they went to Ellis Island, the 2 brothers were separated. In Ellis Island, you had to go in a line, and each one got written down, registered, each one. So they had one, and they couldn't say their names well. So one they got Simon, and one they got Sherman. Sherman, Sheiman.
Really?
And that's where we lived.
And
That's
that
our
happens
life.
a lot.
And those were the 2 brothers were your
One brother was my father. The
Your
other brother
father
was
and
my
your
uncle.
uncle.
Yeah, this is
they
great.
came over to Ellis Island.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
everybody did. My mother did too, but this, you know. But anyway, this is the story I got because I knew I had cousins, you know. Well, my father was already dead. But my mother, the Uncle Nathan, that's the Simon, lived
And
with his.
that's where he's Neil Barry. Is that Nathan named after Neil's named after your uncle? Or is that somebody
No,
else?
Neil is named after Phil's father.
Oh,
His
okay.
name was Nathan.
Oh, I knew it was a
Yeah,
Nathan.
his name was Phil's father. Now, this uncle lived with a wife who was a shrewd. Everybody hated him. That's not what, he lived, and he had 3 children. They lived on the east side, and my mother was alone, you know. So they weren't too friendly. But one Yeah, they invited us to a Seder dinner. I remember my mother went, my sister and I went. And we had Seder dinner there. Now, 2 blocks away from there, my grandmother lived. This was my father's mother. I saw her twice in my whole life.
What was her name?
I don't know
You
her
don't
name.
remember?
A little old lady, I mean.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what I remember about her. I went, my mother took me to visit her, right? And we took a walk outside, and she bought me a chartreuse.
Huh.
You know what a chartreuse
Yeah.
is?
No.
You know,
Yeah.
There's a store called
whipped
that right
cream.
now.
a
Got
chartreuse.
some cake and whipped
Well,
cream.
it was a
with
little sponge cake in
Sponge
a
cake and
cup, and on
whipped
top was whipped cream. And you get chartreuse and maybe what, 2 pennies or something. But she bought me, so I remember her
Yeah.
because she bought me a chartreuse.
Right.
A little old lady, that's the only time I ever saw her.
Wow.
And so we went to the Seder, so I knew I had a cousin and this and that. And then, you know, my mother was with another man, I don't know, I never met them again after that.
That's amazing.
That's amazing, of course my mother didn't have a life, so she didn't have a home, you didn't have an address, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, she kept moving.
She kept moving with her,
Until she married.
until she married Uncle, yeah,
Philip.
until she married
Philip.
Philip. So,
And that's who Scott is named after. Scott Paul is named after that Philip.
well, she was married 25 years to him already, you know. When she met him, I started having a life. But when she met him, I met Dad
Yeah.
very soon afterwards.
Yeah.
I was, let's see. But because he wanted an apartment, he got 3 rooms. I slept in the living room, opened the couch. So, but my mother, from necessity, I remember one summer the 2 of us just gave up the apartment. We went up to the mountains, and she worked as a chambermaid, and I worked as a governess, and the little kids while the mothers were eating. We did that for a summer. I remember that.
But she did fun things with you. She used to take you to the beach on the train.
Well, at some time she was married. At some time